morning again. My name is Ashley Ingalls-Ross. I'm the Vice President of Small Business at the Huntsville Chamber. These types of programming, this is our professional development, one of the programs in our professional development series, come through the Small Business Office. Our presenting sponsor for this program is Barron Weather Services. Is anyone here from Barron this morning? Okay, and then our silver sponsor is Family Savings Credit Union. So I'm so grateful for their support of this programming. It really helps us do what we do. So this morning's panel is, I don't want to get the title wrong, Military Talent. The Power of Military Talent, Individual Efforts, and Collective Impact. And to moderate our panel this morning is the Chamber's Vice President of Talent Initiatives, Lyndsay Ferguson, and Lyndsay is going to introduce the panel. So I will give it to you.
Thanks, Ashley. Good morning. It's great to see all of you. I see some familiar faces and some new faces. I'm really excited for the conversation that we have a chance to have this morning. The three panelists joining us are some really incredible partners to me and the work that we do here at the Chamber. Military talent has been an area of focus for us, and I think an area of focus for our community for a long time. And I anticipate that you will learn some new things and hopefully maybe develop some relationships from the information that they'll share with you this morning. So we have with us this morning, starting in the end, Cierra Johnson-Belser. She is Alabama Regional Manager with NextOp. Next to Cierra, we have Hillary Parker. Hillary is the Program Manager for Hiring Our Heroes, which is an effort of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And then right here to my left is Dave Lakin. He is the Director of Veteran Career Transition with Still Serving Veterans. All three of them are based here in Huntsville and serving our community. And so I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about who they are, their background, and also the organizations that they represent. So Cierra, I'll let you kick us off.
Thank you, Lyndsay. So good morning, everyone. Again, Cierra Johnson-Belser, Alabama Regional Manager for NextOp Vets. We are a national nonprofit that helps veterans transition from service directly into the workforce. So I have been in Huntsville for a year and a half now, almost 2 years, come April, and have really enjoyed working with our employer partners here to really help transition our veterans into the workforce. And as a person that has an HR background, workforce development background across the state, I have really valued the relationships that we have built with our other partners that we have here that are also helping veterans to make a difference here in Huntsville.
Great. Hillary?
I'm Hillary Parker. I'm with Hiring Our Heroes. We are actually U.S. Chamber, and then we have the U.S. Chamber Foundation, and we're a nonprofit under them. And so we actually have been helping service members for about 10 years now with a skill bridge opportunity in addition to hiring events. My background also, I did the transition classes with service members, and that's my passion, is to continue to help service members as they're getting out in the military find jobs.
Last but not least.
There you go. So I'm Dave Lakin, retired Navy chief, left the military in 2008. Worked in government contracting for a few years, held my own business for a few years, and then COVID came. And now I work with Still Serving Veterans, been there almost 5 years. Still Serving Veterans has been in business here in town since 2006, celebrating 20 years this year. And we do everything from VA health benefits and helping folks, with a rent payment or car repairs when necessary. And my piece as the National Director for Veteran Employment is anywhere there's military and veterans, we help them find jobs, help them to have great resumes, and just be better at entering the workforce after the military.
And I think you all will hear through the conversation this morning, everyone sitting up here has a personal passion for doing this work as well. As Dave shared, he is retired and served active duty, and the rest of us are spouses, or soon-to-be spouses. And so, it really is an area of focus and a place that we're excited to be able to continue to share and support. All right, so let's get into some of the conversation. Cierra, I'm going to let you start us off, and I think especially your HR background and recruitment background is so valuable in thinking about Why is hiring military talent a strategic advantage for employers, especially in a fast-growing region like what we're seeing right now in Huntsville and North Alabama?
Absolutely. So here in Huntsville, job creation is definitely not a problem that we have. But finding talent and retention of that talent is a huge issue. And what makes military talent such a perfect fit is they are ready-made leaders. They know how to fit any culture. They are trained to adapt to any type of situation. They're trained to coach and lead and be leaders. These are leaders that have training that us civilians can only aspire to be. So when it comes to making sure that we are creating a space, Huntsville is the perfect pot for military talent because we have so much potential and so much job growth here that it just makes hiring talent that comes from the service industry just an easy fit for the type of work that we have here.
Great. Hillary, as you think about some of the work that you guys lead from hiring our heroes in particular, can you talk a little bit specifically to the work that you're doing, but I think even your awareness from working with military connected talent, how is hiring our heroes and how are organizations that serve that population looking to identify and prepare veterans and transitioning service members, even military spouses, for those civilian career pathways? We know it's not always an easy one-to-one, I did this active duty, and therefore this is what it looks like in a civilian role.
Yeah, exactly. So if you ever talk to a service member, sometimes you're thinking, oh, that doesn't align with something we've done in our career. But that's what we try to help prep them with, is how to talk about those transferable skills so that when you're speaking to them, they understand how to explain their job and what can benefit your company and your workplace culture, in addition to the industry that you're serving. So we are assisting with them with prep workshops, not only with resumes, but also interview skills, salary negotiations. In addition to that, we have career summits. So if someone's not able to come to our prep workshop, they can go to our national summits and they're getting assistance there. And then we're the direct platform to assist them from their transition to you guys, so that we're that talent liaison for you.
And I know all three of your organizations are providing kind of similar training, transition support, and that kind of stuff. I'm curious, and I warned them I would go off script, but only where I think they're ready to answer. How do you ensure that you're kind of getting the feedback from the employer side of what they're looking for or where they see those gaps, particularly as it relates to military talent, so that you know you're consistently addressing some of the spots that maybe are challenging for service members?
No, I think that's a great question. So we actually do a skill bridge program. So we're again that direct talent liaison. So if you're trying to get assistance with what is a skill bridge, what do I need to do for that, we're assisting you with that. But in addition, we're also listening to what the employers need. So for example, our program used to be Monday through Thursday. The service members were with us on Fridays. And then we heard the employers were like, we want more time. And so we actually just evolved our program. Now we're with the companies Monday through Friday with a virtual huddle from 1 to 3 Eastern time zone. So we are constantly listening to what employers need. And then in addition, our contacts in Washington, they're listening to what companies need, and they're constantly working with headquarters there, and they're talking to SkillBridge there as well.
I'm going to assume that many of you know what SkillBridge is, but for those who don't, can you give them the 60-second overview of SkillBridge?
Absolutely. So this is where a service member, they have 6 months or less left in the military, and that is where their command, which is their leadership, is saying, okay, we want you to go forth and get a training while you're still employed by us, but we're letting you kind of go on leave on a little bit of some time away from us and going in with a company. They're getting training from you. They're getting to see what you do in your workplace. And for you guys, it's somewhat of a trial run even before you bring them in. In addition to that, think of it like a long onboarding process. So you get a lot of the training out of the way. They're getting to look at different departments for what they do, and then you get to hire them at the end of that.
Great. All right, Dave, so tell us, what have you found are some of the most common misconceptions that employers may have about hiring military-connected talent? And how do you address them? What are some places where you think we can continue to address those misconceptions?
Yeah. Well, it's not such an issue here in Huntsville because we have a much higher percentage of military here in town than across the country. But generally speaking, if an employer isn't very familiar with hiring veterans, they may think that, well, how am I going to deal with this bull in a china shop that's going to come in and maybe be disruptive to the way that we do business, or they are used to a very structured environment, and we're less structured, more kind of floaty in the way that we do things, and everybody just kind of does their part and it works out. And or maybe they're gonna have to deal with PTSD issues or things like that, and so those are real concerns, and they do actually happen sometimes, but not really very often. What you're more likely to see is the veterans will come into your workspace and they'll have leadership skills that just aren't taught. They'll have less absenteeism. They're more likely to be problem solvers than problem identifiers. And so there's a lot of advantages to having them in the workspace, but you need to know how to seek them out. So we do training programs with the recruiting staff to help them to ask better questions in the recruiting phase, to have a more structured onboarding program. In the military, when you change commands, when you get to a command, that first couple of weeks, you're meeting everybody, you're finding out who does what, you're finding out what's the general mission of the command, and you're really integrating into everything that the command does. And so we have programs to help employers to be better at that onboarding process. And then you also want to train your managers for how do I work with veterans? How can I best take advantage of all of the things that they're bringing to the workforce, not just the stuff that was on the job description. So it's really kind of a holistic approach to how do we find them, how do we bring them on board, and then how do we manage them once they're here.
Yep, absolutely. Hillary, I'm going to jump back to you. I'm sure you all could actually sit up here for a while and talk about success stories, and sometimes those are the things that make it feel the most sticky. But I'm curious if you can share a specific success story that stands out for you that really illustrates the impact that Hiring Our Heroes has had either on a service member or even a military spouse and that career journey that you guys have supported them through.
Oh, I definitely think we could all share success stories. So that's why we love what we do. That's why, you hear those stories and it makes you want to wake up the next day and just continue to serve that population group. So, and we appreciate you hiring veterans as well. So success story, I can think of Jake Hood, if you've probably seen him at a veteran event. He's actually with I3. He was one of my first fellows and he's still with them. And the biggest thing that we want to kind of share with the passion of Skill Bridge is it is that bridge. It's that connection from when they're getting out of the military in a different state or at an installation of somewhere else, and it's bringing them to Huntsville. So it's a perfect way to get talent from outside of here to here. And that helps Lyndsay as well with bringing the workforce development to Huntsville. And so that's why we're passionate about Skill Bridge. We're helping them with their transition. In addition to that, we just had a service member with Georgia Tech Research Institute. They also have a location here. I serve in that as well. But they had a fellow there. We have a nomination each year to where we're nominating individuals. He was one of the selected one, and his success story was presented at our annual gala in Washington, D.C. And so that got Georgia Tech Research Institute, it got them national recognition in front of our partners in D.C. as well.
Awesome. Maybe we'll go through some more success stories as we go through all of our stuff too, so you guys can talk a little bit from that standpoint. Cierra, I'm going to jump back to you. Let's talk a little bit about gaps, right? I think one of the things that you guys exist to solve across the board are some of those gaps and challenges. So where do you see some of those gaps in the current military talent ecosystem, and how are organizations, NextOp specifically, but kind of as you look at the partners up here that you work with too, how are you guys really working to solve those gaps, and what maybe partnership do you need to solve those gaps too?
I will say that one of probably the biggest gaps is the translation lens from their work history on the employer side. I think even though we have a lot of military talent here, we still struggle with employers really understanding how their skill sets translate into their job description or whatever it is position that they're trying to fill. A lot of times, especially as HR, we kind of get hooked on what this job description looks like and how easy it is to translate civilian skills into those roles, but when it comes to our military men and women, that translation lens really is a blocker. So really working with the employers one-on-one to make sure that they understand that these skills are transferable. It may not be a perfect match, but you're never going to find a perfect match even on the civilian side, right? What you're looking for is the skill set, the alignment, the culture fit. And if that person can do all that, these are people that can be trained to do anything. So you can upskill them on any of the things that they may be lacking on the job description side. On the candidate side, when it comes to the servicemen and women, making sure that they see their value, right? We work with a lot of them that may not have served their entire 22, 23, 24 years in the military. A lot of them have served 2, 3, 4 years and decided to get out and try something else. So making sure that they understand their value to your organizations is something that our employment coordinators are really, really talented with doing, and making sure that we make a good match, culture fit wise, alignment wise, with the candidate and the employer. So there's kind of gaps on both sides that we try to fill, but having that communication and that dialogue with the employers and with each of you is what's probably the most important thing that we can do to soften that gap.
Yeah. Dave, can you talk a little bit also, like, how have you seen employers actually translate military skills and experience into civilian roles effectively? Have you, obviously you're working across the country. I think all of you are serving nationally, but have you seen places that, or companies maybe who are doing that really well, but had to maybe make some adjustments to get there too?
Right, so as you may know, we have a hard time separating ourselves from all the jargon that we used in uniform, because those are makes it easy to communicate with other people in the same community. But when we get out there talking to civilians, they're like, I have no idea what that is. What's an MOS? And so you can go to the SkillBridge website, military.com, Skills Translator, there's ONET, Onward to Opportunity. There's lots of places you can go online. AI is very good at it. ChatGPT and others are very good at helping make the leap from describe what you did in uniform in the language that you're used to using in uniform, and then how do we translate that to the civilian side. So there's lots of great tools out there for it. The problem with those tools, though, is that they're going to give you the very clinical description of what this MOS was, or in the Navy we had NECs, or if somebody was an airframer or an aircraft electrician, it's going to give you all the things that an E5 with that rating might have done in uniform. So you got to be kind of careful with those tools. So going back to the recruiting phase, the recruiters have to be very good at asking questions and saying, all right, well, so you were an airframer, what does that really mean? What did you really do? And having those conversations, and all these online tools are great, but really at the end of the day, it's about connecting with the person who's in front of you and just having an extended conversation, not hours, but a conversation where you get to know them a little bit and find out everything that they're going to bring to your company.
And some of the data that we see talks about oftentimes service members, when they kind of make that initial transition into civilian work, many of them don't stay in that first role for very long. And I think that's actually an area that all of you are really focused on serving, which is kind of back to that whole, how do you ensure that everyone on both sides understands from the front end, right? What does the role really look like? How does the skill set align to it? So have you seen good success in terms of kind of adjusting that statistic from a still serving veteran standpoint when employers and service members are making those adjustments in terms of that first year, first transition, feeling like a better fit?
Well, so that's actually a number that we work really hard to adjust from the norm. Whenever somebody gets a job, we call them in 30 days, 6 months, and a year later to see how they're doing. How are you adjusting? How did it go? And when they come to us to, for the initial, can you help me? We want to ask questions. What are you passionate about? What was your best day in uniform? What were you doing? Who were you doing it with? What kind of environment do you want to work in? We want to ask all of those questions so that they're not just going to run out there and take the very first job that comes to them, unless they're in a high stress situation and they're worried about how they're going to pay their mortgage. Then take the job you can get until you get the job you want. But we want to have the longer conversation if we have time, to make sure that they're going to fit best, you know, with the people and the environment and the job itself and all that. And if they're changing roles, you know, maybe they did. We find a lot of people who were medics in the military, and it doesn't really translate to civilian world because you still have to go to school and get all those certifications because the civilian world doesn't take any of them. So they come out and decide they want to be an IT person. Well, then you're back at the bottom. It doesn't matter if you get 10 years of experience in uniform being a medic. You know, now you want to be an IT person, you're going to be an entry-level employee, unfortunately. You know, we have to have those longer conversations about what do you really want to do, who do you want to do it with, so we get them the best fit first time up so they can stay in as long as possible.
Yeah, I think that open dialogue on all sides, the candidate side, the work you guys are doing, the employer side, becomes really important from that standpoint. Hillary, I think at least as I look, we have varying sizes of businesses that are here with us. Obviously, if you have a big company, then you might see that they have they might hold a skill bridge program themselves. They might have a whole group of people dedicated just to military talent and, you know, supporting things like that. But if you're in a small or mid-sized business, that can be a little harder, right? You're not hiring every single day. You kind of have different opportunities. But I'm curious, like, what are some practical steps that you've seen work well for some of those small and mid-sized businesses where they can be intentional about kind of a more inclusive military talent recruitment and retention strategy that maybe they can weave into what they already have too?
Absolutely. So that's just where you give us a call. And so I'm happy to support you through that. A lot of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they maybe have a few recruiters. They don't have someone dedicated to just SkillBridge, and that's where we come in, is that we can assist you with that. We have over 250,000 service members coming through our program every year. And so they're looking for a job, and that's a great segue to be able to locate those individuals. Where it's, if you're not participating in SkillBridge, we have virtual events, and those are free to you. They're at no cost. We are nonprofit, so none of this can cost you. So in addition to that, we have over 11 local programs. So we're national, but we have local programs, meaning there's someone like me in each one of these centralized areas. So you guys are lucky because I'm here in Huntsville. So anytime you need me to stop by, or if you want me to meet with your board or HR, I'm happy to do that for you. Just set up a call.
Awesome. And I think from that standpoint, you know, across the board, I would say like ditto, right? In terms of how that works. And sometimes even across the board, I think each of you serve that community in a little bit of a different way. Cierra, from your standpoint, like what are some resources or partnerships that you think employers should be leveraging to better support their veteran and military spouse hiring even, both through onboarding and then that career progression, which I think, you know, one is get everyone's card and contact information. They really are great partners. But where have you seen that really be successful, both in your work at NextOp and as you kind of look at some of the work you've done across the state and otherwise as well?
Yeah, so Alabama is very veteran friendly. We all know that. So we have organizations across the state, 3 of them all represented right here, that can help really partner with employers to make sure that you guys are having that ability to hire that veteran talent. And to kind of add on to what Hillary said about the last question, I think having partners like us to help you guide when you're doing your job descriptions and making sure your descriptions are based more on skill sets and not credentials. Like a lot of times we see a lot of things, and I know the government side of contracting can be different where you have to have different degrees and different skill sets for things, but having partners like us to really guide you no matter what size your company is, so that we can take a look at your job descriptions to make sure that the skill sets are there on top of the credentials that may be needed. Making sure that we are aligning the talent directly towards your needs. And then you've got Alabama's Veteran Resource Center that's going to be opening in Montgomery. They're going to offer some great opportunities for you guys to engage at a statewide level to make sure that you are utilizing the skill bridges that we all offer. I'm sure you probably offer that as well as an option. We offer the virtual events, just like Hillary said. So there's a lot of different avenues and ways that we can all partner together to make sure that we're hiring our veterans and making a good culture fit for all.
Great. Dave, when you kind of think about, you know, trends in general, what are some trends that you're seeing in the types of roles or industries that are most in demand among our military-connected job seekers right now? You know, where do you see 60% of them want to go and do this type of work? And as we think in our region, you know, what might that look like for people to be aware of?
The hands down number one role that everybody wants coming out of the service is to be a program manager, because that's what they were told they did in uniform. Unfortunately, program manager in uniform is very different from program manager in the contracting world. So we have to have that conversation a lot. I'm a PMP, and in learning that language, I learned that, well, we didn't have this language in uniform. It's because they're different. So the number one thing they go after is program management. They're very good managers. They're very good at you know, you give them a scope of work and they're going to go attack it and get it done. But it's learning the methodology within program management that they might need some help with. And then after that, it's IT, of course, and then manufacturing roles. Probably top three is, you know, program management in its various forms, IT, and then manufacturing and you know, blue collar skills.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to ask all of you for a little bit of a, you know, pipe dream. So as you look ahead and think about in a perfect world in our region and in the work that you're doing, what types of collaborative either initiatives or innovations would you like to see in maybe our region, in our state, to strengthen our military talent pipeline even further? Hillary, I'll let you go first.
I think it's hosting a service member and using all of our organizations, you know, not forgetting about the veteran population, or because maybe like, I'm not sure what this MOS was in the military, or you don't understand that language, you can call any of us to help understand the language of their skills. In addition to that, I just got off the call with someone yesterday, and he was a former fellow, and he was just like, okay, I'm so passionate, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Hiring Our Heroes, and I want to do that for my business. I want to build their retention. I want to get them more veterans. Because a lot of the time there's individuals and they're like, yeah, I want to build the veteran population in our workplace, but I don't know how. That's where you come to us. But for that former fellow, he was like, I want to increase the retention rate. And if you know anything about service members, they talk to each other. That's a lot of the times how your company is going to get known about. And so when that veteran can work through one of our organizations or SkillBridge, they're going to sit there and say, I had an amazing SkillBridge with this company, and then they want to tell someone else about it, and then I can help you with that. But that's going to get your brand out there. It's going to increase your retention because those veterans start to connect and they want to stay there because they've created a new military community at your workplace.